Anne Hughes, Temecula, September 20th, 1998.
I have been sharing the journey of unconditional love with Anne Francis for 3.5 years. It was at a point of my complete surrender that a tape and a message of Anne Francis arrived from England in 1994. I had been searching down many lanes, many paths, to connect with someone that I could resonate and was simply walking the path of truth with direct connection to the divine. I had been on many searches, I looked in many doors, Eastern and Western traditions, and I wanted to just simply recognize someone that was actually trusting and acknowledging the simple path as Jesus walked. And so when I heard this message, I resonated so much, I tried to reach Anne. But of course, she was in total surrender and didn't really have a home and was just being guided to connect with people all over the world. So I connected her first in Scotland and Tanzania, then in Australia, and she said the time wasn't right to come to America. But in 8 months, she was arriving to America and would come to Albuquerque. So as soon as I met her and she came to Albuquerque, I knew I had met someone that really trusted the divine. She was not interested in charging for her work. She simply was seeing the divine as she was the divine. In other words, when you are the perfection, you only see perfection in others. And so I felt so good about meeting someone that I could work with. And we just simply started sharing together. And we have traveled all over the world just sharing this simple little message of unconditional love. Today's message is going to be very, very strong. Anne is leaving for 3 months to England, and she's been receiving a lot of message about the sense of urgency on the planet and also need for people to really commit. And for those of you that are ready to emerge with the divine and actually come to the level that Anne is at, that is what her work is all about. So this message today is strong. She is going to be beyond time, so if some of you can't sit for 2 or 3 or 4 hours, it will be necessary for you to get up and lead very quietly. Actually, for those of you that are ready, and many of you are because I talked to you on the telephone, and all you want to do is serve the divine. You know, and she assists people to complete the lower 3 levels and go into the heart of love that Jesus came to open, the 4th chakra, so we can move beyond our lower levels, or lower 3 chakras. I call it power, sex, and money. And you know when you have completed your 3D levels, when the presence of love is burning so much in your heart and nothing interests you except your service to the divine. And you will know when this happens, and if in any way we can assist you in this growth, you will find it to be the most joyous part of your life. There is no love greater than thy love. And when you move from self to selfless service to humanity, that is something beyond this world. I will now welcome Anne Francis. Thank you very much. It is through all of our gatherings that we are so grateful because we are truly meeting the divine as we look at all of you. So we are just continually expanding our growth. Thank you. Okay, here's Anne Francis.
From the fire of love you came. From the fire of love you will return, thus uniting the Alpha and the Omega. Beloved, I come to you with a message. Or rather, not so much a message as to remind you as to who you really are. I do not come to teach you, beloved, for there is nothing to teach. I do not come to impose on you. I come to share with you. I come to share with you who you really are. For you are the soul, not a body with a soul. You are the soul that has chosen to journey in a consciousness called the body. And perhaps this message will be one of the strongest messages that thus far has been conveyed through this physical manifestation here. This is a manifestation of surrender. There is no small I. There is no small me. There is a personality of the beloved. I wish for you to know and to share with me who you really are, Judah. To remind you, beloved Judah, who you really are. You are love incarnate. How may I express to you what I am feeling as I look at each and every one of you? As I look at the beloved incarnate here. It is time for those who are ready to allow who they really are. Now I will give you, very simply, some of the scripts that you have written to remember who you are. Those scripts will be called, at this present time, the end of a cycle. They will be called the second coming. They will be called the Armageddon. They will be called the translation. They will be called the shift in ages. And how many scripts have you written in order to remind yourselves, little ones? For you see, in perhaps the most significant script, that you, as the beloved soul, are being given an opportunity to be released from your karmic journeys constantly, from what we call your race consciousness, from your separated consciousness, from your creed consciousness, from your religious consciousness, from your ideological, philosophical, and goodness knows what else consciousness. We will present to you something that is very significant, which you as a collective consciousness called humanity have chosen to complete. So how may we express it to you in simple, geophysical, astrophysical, geopolitical, and so many terms? Perhaps the most important realization is I am that. We may say that in geophysical terms, this planetary being, this exquisite terror, this beautiful entity that many will call Gaia and beloved planet Earth, is choosing to shift. Now, even our beloved brothers in the scientific field, for they too are so spiritual as well. For you see, there is no difference between spirituality and science. Both are looking for creator and for creation and vice versa. All is well. These are the many scripts that you as a consciousness have written in order to try and remember who you are. Now, we may say to you that, as you have heard me say constantly, that we always ask you to take a pat on the back for the incredible grammars that you created in your scripts. Your scripts perhaps will come under the heading, most of the time, of fear. And one of these subheadings, perhaps one of the biggest subheadings, is called codependency. You have understood, dear hearts, of the baggage that as a soul, or rather as a consciousness, forgetting that you are a soul journeyer, that you as a collective species called humanity have engendered. Now, I am going to be very fair with you here. Please understand that there are two and probably three distinct scenarios taking place at the same time of what this journey, or this consciousness journey that you are experiencing entails. The first is the most significant. I am that is who you are. Now, I am that chose a journey into a consciousness realm. The consciousness realm was to descend from the unknown, to present itself as known, and thus creation would take place. I am giving it to you very, very simple. For probably you have written and you have experienced and read so many scripts by now that we are going to try and bring it into a very short abbreviation. Maybe just an outline, as we will say, for you in the more dramatic roles or professions. Now the outline is that you, from the unknown, stepped down and presented a journey called the known. The known is called creation. Now in that creation, the I am that, all that is you are, the fullness, the omniscience, the omnipresent, the omnipotent that you are, you chose many ways to express yourselves as the known, the knower and the known. And that is the many creations, the many understandings of what you perceive as your galaxies, as your star systems, as your planetary beings. One, and we will bring it into a solar being, is your present experience that you have, incarnate as a soul, in a consciousness called human species. The species of human. Now, part of this journey, and this is the third part of the journey, from the unknown, all that is, the beloved, I am that, God, Brahma, you have many names for it. It is the unknown, it is the effulgence, it is the even unsayable word. Perhaps the nearest we will use the expression is and I am. The seed syllable itself that many, in many ways, have felt more comfortable with. The sound, the word itself. Light, let there be light. And that was the known that would come into fruition. That was the sun, the light, the beloved of all that is not, again, a gender. I do not work with genders, dear heart. This is merely a concept in humanity that sees gender. In that realization, then the next step would take place as a soul. Now, how is the soul going to learn? How is the soul going to experience? It is very boring just to be floating around as ethereal consciousness. Extremely. It would be a pointless exercise. So create anew all that is, the spark from which you have come. You are the spark. You are the divinitized spark itself in the perfect hologram of the whole. For in every whole is a perfect part, and in every part is a perfect whole. That is the wonderful Mandelbrot that many are talking about now, and the hologrammatic consciousness that our scientific brothers, those who have chosen to be more linear in their thinking, are now coming to certain realizations. It is boring. It would not be fun for Creator just to float around. Creator said, I want to know further. I want to experiment with myself in the known, and thus, as part of the creations, I will develop species consciousness. Now, species is not just human, dear hearts. Species is many, many unified fields of consciousness. Many ways for Creator to know itself in many, many forms. And perhaps the most interesting form. Now we are talking about, if we talk in linear concepts, we are talking about aeons and aeons and aeons of space-time consciousness. But in linear concepts here, we will say that Creator then said, now let's go for a physical dimension. Let us go for something so physical, so tangible, that I will even see my reflective consciousness throughout the universe in a physical manifestation. I'm giving it in very simple forms. And this is just one manifestation of Creator at this moment in time. There are many levels of Creator's manifestation. Beingness. There was, as you will understand, brought into place a most beautiful planetary being that you are now enjoying and have for hundreds and thousands of millennia enjoyed. She is known as Gaia. She is known as Terra. And this is the solar being that would engender for you as a conscious being, as an entity in her own right. A beautiful entity with chakra wheel, with vortexes and meridians, just as you have. She is the mother consciousness, as we will say. She is the one that for Creator level, we may use the expression, I will just simply work in simple context of even gender, but when I say gender, more the yin and the yang. The father is the unknown, the mother is the known. And of course between the known and the unknown comes what we call the bliss. The Ananda. The bliss, the sun, the light itself. And that was the creation, the forms of creation. From the mother producing herself and presenting herself as a biophysical sphere, an entity with many kingdoms. The kingdom, though, was going to be the consciousness of self-consciousness. Not just group and collective consciousness, but self-consciousness. And that is what we will call the understanding of human species. But not to get stuck. Now let us give you the next part of this journey. So here we have a most beautiful mother entity. A sacred being. A sacred earth. As many of you are now so preciously and so poignantly beginning to realize. For you see, you as part of her, you are part of her. You are part of her reflective grids. You are the magnetic consciousness on one level, descending as the electric consciousness, the light on another level. And thus you will present the expression electromagnetic. Now she is magnetic. She is a physical being. She has physical parts of herself that are very, very vital to all and each and every one of you. For in each and every one of you, you have the crystalline conscious. You have the mineral conscious. You have the verdant, or what we call the nature consciousness of cyclical consciousness. For you see, Mother is also a cyclical being. She is a nature being. Pre-Christian concepts, or the scripts that you wrote pre-Christian, were that she was a beautiful being that you would pay homage to. That as you received her beautiful gifts through her sacrifices of her animals and her plants, it was done with the innocence that you were as a soul in a human being consciousness of young souls that were young in experience and yet at the same time acknowledged the mother in acknowledging her kingdoms. When you would bake bread, when you would reap the harvest, you would have the most wonderful celebrations of acknowledgement. And when you would eat of the flesh, even as you would become more dense in your consciousness, you still had something there as a reminder that this was a sacred partaking. This was part of what we call the bread of life, the physical life, not spiritual life. Let us look at this. And the journey was that you, as sparks of the divine, would descend. You would descend to undertake a most fascinating, a most challenging experience. What would be the challenge, beloved? Choice and free will was the challenge. Now there you are, in the light of all that is, sitting up there, whether we call it linear up or down or in or out, it doesn't matter anymore. I will only use at times linear concepts and expressions to accommodate. Please understand, for me to express who you really are is impossible in this spatial language that we use here. For you are beyond description. But there you are, beloved, in the light of all that is, finally ready to descend as sparks of the divine, to descend as the journeyer, as the soul incarnate into a physical grid, multidimensional grids of physical consciousness. Dear heart, you wish to leave. Do you wish to leave, dear heart? So there you are, you have descended as souls incarnate here. You are given the mandate of free will and of choice. You have come, little one, from many, many galaxies for this to take place. For this is a stupendous experiment. Why the experiment? Creator said, you from all that is. I want to see how far I can go. I want to go into the void of the unknowing in order to experience and learn who I am through my feeling, to know what it is like to feel. And there had been many, many experiences of Creator in the consciousness of knowing, of being in the physical, as we would say, in grids of patterns, or we may use these as geomorphogenic fields, morphogenic fields. But this is something spectacular. For you, you are going to have free will and choice. And thus, dear hearts, I will say to you very clearly, it was your choice to seed this experience. It was your choice, beloved. You came as the sparks of the divine. You were ensouled, beloved. You were ensouled into a matrix. The matrix is called man. You were ensouled into a physical evolution. Through the highest and we may say the most advanced matrix for this experience for Creator, which is known as man, that in due course will become human. The biped, from the group, the collective, to the self-consciousness. Now, I will not go into what has taken place. It is not necessary, for many of you now, in your search, have come into certain realizations that you are here by choice and came here by choice, and you came from the many systems. Now, in coming from those systems, to be given that opportunity is phenomenal. Brave souls, brave beings that you are, to come and to choose an unknown quantity, not to know what is really going to take place. To be literally cut off, so that you end as a little planetary consciousness on the edge of the lip of the universe, dear hearts, as a planetary being. The dear mother who has stayed with it for hundreds and thousands and millennia. Even before you came, she was preparing for the seeding of the God child, for the seeding of the God being, to prepare herself as the womb, as the manger itself, for this seeding of sparks of the divine, with the creative fear to create even if they have forgotten who they were. And thus you ensouled. For hundreds and thousands of years, Mother has worked as her normal wont is, as a physical, geophysical being, through a cyclical consciousness. As I said to you, you all within each and every one of you have a cyclical nature. It is called nature man. That is the consciousness. We are going to use this expression, the consciousness of man. Thus you are inevitably integrated with her magnetic consciousness. She is magnetic. She has pulled you into her. She has pulled you into her breast. She has been feeding you. She has been nurturing you. She has been succouring you as a seed being, as the incredible human evolution that will take place. Not for you to stay in a procreative nature. But I will go along the track here, for I am telling you now, dear hearts, I have a responsibility to you. I have a responsibility to let you know further who you are, and to help you in compassion from my heart, from all that is, to help you to realize and to understand the journey that has been very challenging for you. Now, in her cyclical nature, she works in a rhythmic consciousness. She works as a procreative being in her kingdoms. Here you have the animal kingdoms in their procreative natures. When the spring comes, in spring a young man's fancy turns to thoughts of love, as we will use the expression. And so, of course, each and every one of you have in your reflective imagery seen yourself that way. So, of course, your desire has been to reprocreate yourself consciously. and constantly, may I say. Constantly. Now, meanwhile, Creator is standing back watching this. You are your multidimensional levels of consciousness. You have sent parts of yourself for this experience. Now, the majority, we may say, and of course you may wonder why you have only ever used 10% of your brain, if that much. Because the rest of the 90%, we may say, has been in other fields of consciousness, or zones. And perhaps we will use the expression unified field theory. Many of the dear brothers, again, who are looking at it from a linear, are starting to see some interesting concepts. Everyone is coming home to reality at last. Now, thus as the journey would take place, you had then started to create a journey of feeling. The journey again was free will, and in choosing and seeing as a spark of the divine and then ensouling here, you would then choose to feel and to learn about emotion, energy and mass. E equals mc squared, as I will keep saying. As I've always said, our beloved Einstein got it in the nick of time. The time, listen to the operative word, time. For you see, even as the mother as she is a cyclical, rhythmical being, and she is a time machine. Listen to this expression. She is in spatial consciousness of time. That is why she has a rhythm. That is why you have the four seasons. So beautifully conveyed by, I think it was, I don't know who wrote this, Four Seasons, but it's a beautiful piece of work. The Four Seasons. Vivaldi, that is it. I just suddenly heard Vivaldi say, okay. And Respighi was also doing some beautiful work. But just let me tell you, in coming into this magnetic consciousness, you would then start to rhythmically dance with the mother. You would start to rhythmically procreate and start looking at yourself in creation through your feeling natures, to seeing yourselves as an external being. You would cast your eyes externally, and thus, in seeing the nature kingdom rhythmically mating, you would then say, now let us see what it's like to go through the rhythmical mating. And that is, we say, the consciousness of the four seasons. It was not intended, dear hearts, that this would continue for hundreds and thousands of years. In your consciousness of being caught in time, as we will say, you were caught in your emotions as you were feeling. There would be what be called a time zone coming through. Magnetically, she works as a rhythmical time being. And therefore, you as creator on one level have the most incredible ability to convey your thoughts, for you are creator on one level. And thus, as you would convey your thoughts, it would be time before perhaps those thoughts would come back to you. In your energies, in your emotions, in your feelings, you would be held in magnetic consciousness, because here you are as a divine spark. For you to have had, you could not have chosen the experience otherwise. You as soul said, I want to go for this experience. I want to experience what it is like to be in a geophysical creation, and yet at the same time remember myself in evolution itself. As an evolutionary being, not just a constant procreative being. In that process, as we will say, you got stuck. And you kept recreating your emotions. Your emotions, again, were stuck in time. So as many people do not realize that half the time what they put out as energy eventually, and under the law of physics, must always return. For you see, energy is constantly in motion. And the universal law is you are creator. What you put out, you cannot destroy. You are energy, you are isness, you are all that is. And therefore, you must eventually reap what you as a creator have chosen to outpicture. That is called alchemy on another level. So great alchemist that you are, you outpictured to such an extent that you could only see the outside picture. You could only see the externalization, body, being. The body consciousness became so powerful. And that was the journey of, we will say, unknowing and even forgetting. Now, there is no judgment here. But we have to come back now to the reason as to why you are here. And why you have chosen to come here in this most beautiful afternoon, in this most beautiful place. To hear who you really are. To be released from your grids of procreative consciousness. Repeat, repeat, repeat. It is known as the karmic cycle. It is known as the cause and effect. For you see, in your consciousness, you even wrote your death syndromes. You even created in your body consciousness your desire for your body. Your desire for somebody else's body. You could not leave the thought behind. You took it with you. And thus, you reincarnated yet again in the desire. I am here to inform you very clearly. You are spiritual beings having a human experience. Not humans now and then deciding to have a spiritual experience. I am here to inform you very strongly, and I am going to be very strong here, for I have a responsibility to you, through this manifestation here, to remind you who you are. You are the Immaculate Concept. You are the soul that is awakening to its magnificent birth of perfection, not imperfection that you think you are. You are not the sinners. You have, yes, created an experience of error, we may say. Error in choosing in your emotions and such deep emotions in your solar plexus that you had to have this outside of yourself in order to feel and remember who you are within. So we may say the propensity for humanity has been outside of themselves, forgetting that they are the beloved, walking on this earth, in this experience, not to stay stuck in it. Not to disacknowledge this most beautiful mother who has accommodated this experience for you. Now the mother, in her great wisdom, in her great love, has regularly in her magnetic energies gone through what we call a shift. She is cyclical. She is basically guided through solar consciousness. These are fields of consciousness, whether you call them the moon, the stars, what some of you will call the zodiacal consciousness. Through her precession of her equinoxes, she works rhythmically in cycles as a geophysical being, but an exquisite being. You are simply also a reflection on another level of her. So she will always reflect back to you what you are putting out. Bear in mind, as I said to you, beloved of my heart, you hold within your being, within your very cells, within your very matrix, within your very DNA and RNA, your protons, your neutrons, your positons, every particle of your being is also in magnetics or in physical consciousness, a reflection of what Mother is. She is a crystalline being. She is a biotransducer. Listen to the expression. She is a crystal being. She has probably about 90% of her earth or her terra is a crystal being. That is a receiver and transmitter. And those in the technology of mechanics and various other ways that they look at technology will understand what crystal means, and how it may be used for your receivers and your transmitters, for your great technology with your televisions and your biocomputers and goodness knows what else. Again, all to be acknowledged, all to be understood, for this is your journey yet again, not to be negated. Everything that is outside is what is within. And so, Mother in her wisdom, cyclically, roughly every 13,000 years, and maybe even less depending, will go through what we call a shift or a kind of rebirth, but a different rebirth to what is taking place now. The rebirth is where she shifts, and she consciously shifts her arc of consciousness. She goes roughly every 2,100 odd years, as we will say in linear time, through a shift or a movement. And at a particular stage, and certainly at the end of every 26,000 years, we will say, 25 to 26, and we're giving it you in linear. I do not want you to get too caught up in the linear here, but I am trying to explain to you what is happening. She goes through a major magnetic shift. If, and I am certain many of you who have read the thousands of books, you will remember in some of your reading matter, you will find in the sacred Mayan, the Egyptian, the Christian, the Kabbalistic, the many texts, the many sacred texts in the mythologies. You will be aware that the mother goes through a change of consciousness. She goes through a choice to get rid of the density that is accruing on her planetary body. And may I say, most of the, what we call the accruement, is humanity's discord. Is humanity's thought of separation. For bear in mind, you are souls here. And you carry with you thought, for you are the thought of human at this moment in time. You are where your focus and attention is. So of course this is an experience that you would choose. One, to assist Creator on another level, to experience and to experiment with a physical evolution itself. And the highest form for this planetary sphere is what we call the human or the Adamic evolution itself. So there are many levels taking place at exactly the same time. But I am here to inform you very clearly. In the past, we may say linearly, historically, or historical perspective, as we call it. She has done a wipeout on all of humanity, most of the time. Why? Because humanity could not vibrate to the level that she was choosing to work with. The density of hate, the density of discord and separation of humanity in its wars, in forgetting that you are souls, in a very young consciousness on another level, and not being able to awaken to who you were, in your choice to experience emotion, to experience what we call separation. There was no choice, but again, there is no judgment from the mother. There is no judgment from Creator, for Creator is and has no emotion. Creator is beyond the duality of more or less, of right and wrong, of dark and light, of good and bad. Creator is in its infinite beingness always, and nothing changes, other than its knowingness through its fields or its grids of consciousness. So here you are, a physical being that is constantly and certainly cleared when the mother wishes to change or what we call shift the density. She has a right in cyclical consciousness to make that decision, and she does it automatically. Now, what is taking place here is very significant. In your texts, in your Mayan texts and all your various sacred texts, your emerald tablets, your great Mayan and Egyptian, Persian, Greek, and so it goes on, the Atlantean consciousness, everything. You have been aware and you have written that she is reaching, and you are aware on one level of your higher being, that she as a being is choosing to shift yet again. She is not going to turtle, dear hearts. She is not going to, as a physical sphere, turn. She is simply winding down her magnetics. She's getting tired. And when I say tired, she wants to birth a new evolution here. She wants to birth a more expanded species of consciousness. She is here as an evolutionary being to assist in Adamic evolution, and she will play that part as the manger. She will be the mother that gets rid of her chicks in order to bring and seed new chicks to come in, as we will say. This is the agreement and this is the choice, and I'm giving it to you this way. She is in the process, and many of you have been picking up, and in your own body consciousness, physical, or speeding up. You have been feeling a quickening within your very being. Why? Why? Because you are expanded souls of consciousness. You are high, we use the expression. You are divine beings. You are divine electric sparks here. And you bet you're feeling it. Because she is releasing you, little ones. As she is winding down her magnetics, your body vehicle is trying to accommodate what is taking place. So there appears to be, on one level, a resistance of consciousness. The consciousness, as we will call, or the body consciousness, is based on fear. And that is the reason why everybody on this planet is going to be faced with their stuff. Everyone. Because she is winding down her magnetics, you as souls are quickening in your consciousness. You are being released because you are the divine dimensional shift. Listen to the difference here. Now when I say that, they are lining up. This has never happened before, not this way. Not en masse. We have had souls who have what we call gone through a resurrection process in the past. And this is a planetary resurrection that is taking place here. Now, it doesn't matter the language we choose, whether some call it the Armageddon, whether they call it, again, the translation, whether they call it the rapture, whatever they call it. You have many, many names for it, and as I said, you are to be congratulated for your incredible spiel of language. Not to say that I cannot give you even more spiel. But I am is in honor of who you are. So this is just an instrument, a surrendered being that is speaking to you in the presence of all that is. There is no small me or I here. There is only the I am that, speaking to you with love and acknowledgement. You are now choosing to take what we will call a resurrection. Now let me explain the resurrection to you. Whether you call it the second coming or the Messiah, it has, as I said, many names. We have in this consciousness being and on this consciousness being, we have had impetus beings that have come in to assist the souls that got stuck in remembering that they are the divine all that is, having a human experience. And part of that human experience was growth for the soul, and to assist a future evolution for a geophysical evolution, as we will say, for the Adamic principle. So there have been many ways that you have agreed to undertake this journey, and part of this has been the unknown factor, or the uncertainty principle, as our brother Heisenberg will say. The impetus beings have come in at various stages to assist this very young evolutionary process on its way, to try and help those sparks of the divine, the souls engendered in this consciousness field called the Adamic principle, the human being, to wake up. Again, we must say this is a very young experience here. Creator has had many Adamic experiences, but the significance of this one is the unknown factor, as we say, of choice, of free will. This is a free will zone. This is a free will manger itself. This is a God creation, as we will say. Not a procreative creation, but a future co-creative being. So as she is now the mother, choosing to release and to wind down one level of her grids, what will take place? There will be a consciousness shift. Earth as a biosphere will simply resonate to a different tune. And the different tune will be, may we say, more harmonic, less disharmonic. It is like watching an orchestra here that has yet to start the symphony. and has been tuning up in its own individual ways. And I am certain you've heard the caterwauling of an orchestra before it starts to prepare itself for the symphony. All are different sounds, all are different tones or harmonics, as we will say. Not the most attractive listening prior. Never mind the rehearsals, never mind before. And how many rehearsals do we have to have, dear heart, for this to take place? We had it at the time of Atlantis, and a few may say we flunked it. But there is no flunking. I'm going to be very clear there. There is no such thing as failure. It doesn't exist. You are perfection. You have just forgotten your perfection. That is all. As she is shifting, she is releasing the soul consciousness from time. You are divine sparks. You are brought into time for an experience for soul growth. That is all.
End of side 1.
Your addictions would be so phenomenal that you would incarnate as fast as you could in order to go and to continue your habitual addiction, which is called I am not. There is a tune. There is a swell. There is a taking off of the most beautiful orchestra, even though at times you may hear some of the discordant and some, we may say, experiences or other parts of yourself quite not in tune with you. The tune is called love. That is the symphony that is choosing to engender here. The mother is choosing to take a resurrection. She is choosing, some will call it an ascension. Now bear in mind you descended. You are simply reascending to who you really are. That is all that is taking place. The descent and the ascent are exactly the same time. But it required an aspiration from you as soul to wake up, to choose that ascent. Now, I'm here to say very clearly that Earth planet will shift whether humanity likes it or not. She's done it in the past, and she will do it again. She is rearranging her decks. She is clearing. Some will call it wipeout, perhaps. But when I say that, I am not talking about Armageddon. I am not talking about that. Only those people who are in such body consciousness that their fear about their body is so strong will they experience Armageddon within themselves. But I always say it is within that expresses without. Now let us get the journey within taking off here. She is choosing a resurrection. We had impetus beings that came thousands of years ago, and perhaps the most contemporary impetus being that we can use is a sweet brother. That many, and I am not here to talk about Christian terminology, I am not here to talk about any dogmas, creeds. I come from none of those. I honor the journeys and the paths that many have gone down to try and remember who they are and the distorted consciousness that has been engendered on this planet of called separation, even through the religious principles. But I understand with love and compassion, for you did not know who you were. But now you do. The kingdom of God is within. It is not about telling somebody that they should belong to your religion or anything like that. It is the acceptance of every beloved soul on this planet as a unity child, just simply experiencing its diversity of consciousness. That is all. You are spectacular beings. You are divine facets from thousands and millions of systems beyond your understanding. And you simply chose to undertake this experience for the greatest soul growth, not just for you, but for creator and creator levels in your many systems and beyond and beyond and beyond. Joshua ben Joseph, beloved Lord Jesus, as many will know him, was a sweet brother that engendered here as a soul facet just as you or I, no more, no less. But he understood the immaculate concept. And this is perhaps what I'm here to talk and to explain. The immaculate concept is the realization that you are love incarnate here. That is the immaculate concept. He went through what we call the virgin birth of himself. I'll forget about how he arrived. Who cares? Needless to say, he arrived, just like you and I. It is incidental whether it was through some medical terminology or anything like that. This was a soul that chose to show and to engender the resurrection consciousness, the fourth consciousness, as we will call it. He woke up and knew he was a soul incarnate. He knew he was more than a body, little one. He knew he was a soul, a journeyer in a physical creation called a body. He knew. And thus, as he started to awaken, and yes, he searched, Ali, he searched initially. Contrary to what may the historical records that have been written about this brother, it is immaterial. He played a part, no more, no less, but we may say a significant part. He woke up as love. He saw outside of himself love in everyone. He knew he was looking at unity, at a unitized being in its many facets of diversity. He knew. And that is why, in his search, as he searched, he went down the mystical schools. He read the many texts, and then he knew he had to throw it all away. Why? Linear. That is why. He is beyond, and you are beyond space and time, little ones. I am is beyond space and time. I am simply experiencing a manifestation called space and time. And thus he then realized that he could no longer work with a linear or intellectual paradigm, as we will call it. He knew. Yes, we may say, and he will be the first to admit it as a soul here, incarnate, that he was less than diplomatic at times in what he had to say to others. But it is immaterial as to what took place. The significance of what took place was he showed the resurrection of a physical being. He showed the consciousness of love or life in the physical. The last two lines of the prayer of Francis say it all. It is in the dying that we are born to eternal life. What that means is, that is in letting go of the ego perspective, the little me, the little I, the little program that is based on fear, that is so emotional that cannot even, again, the counterfeit ego, the lower self, as we will call it, the lower self, in order to allow the higher self, or the greater all that is the over self, the higher self, to subsume in the physical that lower being. Not to deny his physical body, not in denial, but to experience the awakening as the beloved in the physical. That is what resurrection means. It was a resurrection of consciousness in the physical. It was not a denial of the body. The body was part of the experience for the soul's growth. All that happened for humanity is the soul has not been able to awaken in the physical manifestation called the Adamic or the body principle, because of the over-identification with the body. Over. So powerful that we may say that humanity in its vortexes of energy, bear in mind you are crystalline, you are meridians, you have many pathways leading from your vortexes. They are known as meridians. Again, you are aligned to Earth in a consciousness zone. He knew that he was more than that. He knew he was in time. He knew he was a physical being in time, but he also knew he was the beloved, he was the divine incarnate here. And how did he know, and how was he able to allow for that resurrection to take place? Now I may say to you that prior to his choice to allow his body or his temporal beingness, his physical body, to be placed in a situation where there would be a death or what appeared to be a physical death, he had already resurrected on another level, contrary to what people realize. He was already under instruction from his higher or more expanded overself. When he threw away the books, when he let go of all what we call the workshops and the sweet shops and everything like that, we will give some contemporary language here to assist you, because I'm certain you understand what I mean by this. He knew his beingness was all that could be. It was not outside, yes. He, like everybody else, went along the paths to search for the beloved. And then he realized he was the beloved, and he was simply looking at the beloved. That nothing outside of him existed other than the reflective image of I am that. And thus he realized. And it came from his heart, not from his intellectual parameter, not from his intellectual beingness that had read the text, no matter how far back. Yes, we may say that he experienced some of what we call the initiations. And he played that part as many hundreds and thousands of souls have gone through various initiations in their search for immortality and to understand resurrection and ascension. I won't go down that, for many of you are aware of what I'm talking about. How he was able to fully awaken and to stay awake. And this is why I feel it is most important I convey this to you. There are thousands of you and millions of you that are conscious. But we are asking you to stay awake. Consciousness is not talking about spirituality. Being awake is allowing spirit to journey you. He called in his beloved. His beloved was the Alpha that came to claim the Omega, just as you. He realized that on one level he was formless. And yet at the same time he was the level of consciousness experiencing in a form. And that he had come to help, just like you and thousands, and this is what this is about in future time, as we call it, an evolution of consciousness for Creator, not to get stuck in it. He knew this was a procreative consciousness, that in due course, for Creator will become a co-creative consciousness. This is what I'm trying to say to all of you here. So he allowed the subsumation of his lower self. He let go of his body identity. And he surrendered to the beloved. He let go of how he did. Yes, we may say he was tempted. Just as each and every one of you are tempted in what we call your lower three chakras, as we would call it. He experienced what it was like of the emotions of physicality of himself. He experienced again the fears, just as you and each and every one of you have been experiencing. And now are remembering it is no longer necessary. He was on his own. So therefore it required a very advanced soul to undertake this journey. But the significance was to bring love here. The significance was to prepare this consciousness zone, this being on another level, which is accumulated and collective consciousness of every single entity on this planet, to bring it through and to prepare it to take a resurrection. Some will call it the ascension, but I will address that later. He surrendered to love. He let God be the banker. He did not decide. His love was so beautiful that in love he surrendered, for there was no me left. In his simple parables and his simple way of expression at that time, for that was, again, the spatial language, the symbology that was presented at that time. He spoke in simple terms. And he gave perhaps some of the most poignant expressions in his Sermon on the Mount. And the most poignant perhaps for this manifestation here. And I simply paraphrase it in case anybody has learnt the Bible off by heart. I haven't a clue. It is another text as far as I am concerned. But there at the same time there were some beautiful And there always is, no matter which text and who has written it. When truth speaks, it is always held in that vibration, no matter what text. The greatest truth that this sweet brother conveyed was, think ye not for what you shall drink, or what you shall eat, or nor for your body, but first ye seek the kingdom of heaven within. In other words, he woke up to the realization he was love. And that being the case, there was no request and no desire for him in what we call the material concepts. He was in love with love itself. It was not understood at the time, but he came, bear this in mind, on a mission. And so have you. And the mission will only ever be unconditional love. What took place for him was merely as the tool, the instrument for the presence to get something moving. That's all. He played a part as the instrument, just as this one here is playing a part in all of you. There was no attraction or what we call attachment to how he was being used. He was in surrender to the beloved. He understood the understanding, the context of I and my beloved are one. He knew he was the beloved Alpha and he was the Omega. He knew he was the divine incarnate, and he knew every single facet outside of himself was the same. No more, no less. He knew this was the Son, the light of all that is having the human experience. That is the only way I can express it to you, little ones. It was not about a personality. It was about the presence which each and every one of you is and always has been. Simply expressing itself as a personality called Yeshua, Ben Joseph, or Lord Jesus, or Emmanuel. That is all. But it was the allowing. It was the allowing of the beloved to steer him. It was the allowing of Spirit, dear hearts, to steer him. Spirit, listen. He didn't need for the grids to be open for him to wake up. We may say perhaps there may have been, we don't know, in geophysical or physics terms, where he incarnated may have given him a greater opportunity to awaken. Yes, he came into a family that was more God-conscious, but still caught up in their linear concepts, no matter what. In their linear perception of God, outside, always outside. The deities that you have worshipped outside as a collective species here. There is no judgment, even though I will say to you that I may appear very tough, but it is important I have a responsibility to help you realize who you are. So you have not come, and I have not come for a personality contest, or for what we call a popularity contest. You will not get that from me, and I will hide behind no corners. I am only giving freely what is being given to me, expressed through me, whether you accept my language. Again, I ask your indulgence to understand that we all have our own perceptional language, and that is what has created the separation. But I feel that you can feel that I am earnest in what I am saying, and you will take with you what you feel is most comfortable for you, and you may choose to walk out, and I will send you with my love. It is entirely up to you. What I am here to say to you now is he surrendered to the I Am Presence, Spirit. And he called in his greater all that is, the Father, not a gender. The Mother is the divine heart, sweetheart. She is the nurture and nature and creation. She has a most magnificent part to play. She is not, and he are not dualized concepts. They are oneness that split off into the two for this experience to create a trinitized being called the Son. It is a magnificent concept, Julian. He surrendered to love. And he asked the Father to steer him. Now, each and every one of you have been given an opportunity as a seeding on this planet. It is not just the end of a 26,000-year cycle that there is an opportunity for the electric sparks, as we will call you, to be released from the geomagnetic grids that are winding down. Now, when I said this, she is not going to turtle. She is simply going to just reverse her magnetics, that is all. From north to south, from south to north. That is all that is happening. It is a consciousness shift, that is all. But it is more than a geophysical consciousness, and this is what I want to get through to you very, very powerfully. It is a dimensional shift as well. This has never happened en masse. Because she, as a planetary being, was not ready for it. She was not ready because of the collective consciousness that was accrued on her grids. The human consciousness. Now, Joshua ben Joseph started the ball rolling. The Christ, as we will call it, descended into incarnation. Now, when I say this, I am not talking about a personality called Jesus. I am talking about a soul that engendered and allowed the presence or all that is to descend a consciousness whereby it would assist a mother to start her process of resurrection for an involution, for an evolution to take place. You are in involution at this moment in time. It required an involuntary involution for perhaps Joshua to allow a body destruction to show something so beautiful. And that was the temple that could be built in 3 days' time. It was the kingdom itself in, or spirit in matter. I won't go into that, you are understanding this. The whole of the universe is in a shift at this moment in time. What takes place, and even in the Eastern philosophies, the Vedantas and many other beautiful ways that it has been expressed over millennia, the Creator, as we will say, in this local creation, is in the process and starting the in-breath. Some call it the Prayara, the Mantavara, it does not matter what we call it. This being the case, that this planetary being is being given an opportunity to be raised in consciousness as an entity in her own right. Bear in mind, she is an entity. She is a geophysical entity that has an opportunity to raise her geophysics, as we will say. More so than ever. Because the opportunity has not presented this way before. Now, you, dear hearts, before you incarnated here, were told what it was about. You came deliberately, and you came, and I'm going to say very clearly to you, many of you in the past were given this opportunity at the time of Atlantis, at the time of the CAC. There were many times where you as souls were given opportunities to raise your consciousness in the physical, and that was what we call resurrection. But at the time, the collective consciousness was so strong that you too remained asleep. Or in this sleeping, was you were caught more in your temporal power than in your divine reality. Your temporal power was more about your body and what you could do even in your psychism. It was nothing to do with love. It was to do with, again, power over. Always power over and powerless, as we will say. The imbalance of the dualities that you had chosen to experience in expressing even your male and your female, or your yin and your yang. She is in a resurrection. Before you came in, you were told. And you said, we're in. You were given an opportunity now. This is important again, that I acknowledge that every soul here on this planet is at different stages of the journey. There are billions who will not wake up. They will simply find themselves in a shift. That's it doesn't matter how they will choose to experience their shift of consciousness. But we can say right now that even you are being shown beautifully what is taking place on this planet, and even in this most precious country. You have, and I will never give names, but you probably have the most wonderful mirror reflection that is presenting to you at the top of your scale sex, power, and money. You are simply reflecting, and of course many dear ones are choosing to dump outside yet again, rather than realize they are simply chosen through a sweet and a soul that is here. To reflect back, we always reflect to each other what we have to look at. But most of the time we will not recognize the reflection, and we will simply separate yet again and have a judgment, rather than realizing the gift that is being presented for this country at this moment in time. I hope, and I am certain, that what is taking place is a most natural and a most beautiful gift for everybody to look at their issues. Fear. The three lower chakras, as we will say. Now, dear hearts, I hope that you have time with me here. If you feel you wish to walk out, then fine, because I have no idea, for I am not here in spatial time to worry how long I'm going to talk to you. But I hope that you will accommodate with me here. For this is a most important meeting. I have a responsibility, and it has been made very clear to me through the Father Principle. I had a choice to leave this planetary sphere. I did not take it, because I knew that I had brothers and that every single one of you were the beloved. And that being the case, if I could be used in any way as an instrument, then I said, I will stay. And that is why my responsibility is even greater for me, to know that you too can be lifted up as all is lifted. Now let us get to the nitty-gritty, as we will say. The nitty-gritty is that you are future co-creators. Now you heard me say that there are many souls at different stages of the evolution here. My responsibility, and there may be only one person in this room, not in negation of you, I honor you all as souls. I'm talking about soul development or soul growth and experience and allowance. My responsibility is to help those souls who are ready to allow the birthing of co-creator. Now what does this mean? It was never intended, and I'm going to say this, the whole idea of this creative principle in physical planes of consciousness is to assist evolutions. You came for this experience, you came for this solar growth, eons of millennia ago. Originally seeded, and there are hundreds and thousands of millions here who were the original seedings here and simply couldn't wake up, got stuck in what we call the solar plexus of emotion, and created the Adamic or the separative principle, forgetting that they were the Adam and the Eve oneness, that simply chose, and again as part of their experience, to split off the cell to further experience, that is all, forgetting their male and the female of oneness itself. There is no judgment here, and this is fine. And this will continue for hundreds and thousands of years longer. There will always be souls here who are choosing, as part of their experience, the growth and the experience of, we may say, the duality principle. You have all gone through it. But I am also here to say very, very clearly that there are also souls on this planet. Been there, done that, and worn the T-shirt. Now, even if, and you may feel that you cannot accept what I am saying here, I honor and I accord you my love always, unconditionally. We have said that this is a physical evolution that will continue for a long time until Creator feels that it has reached a stage where that physical co-creator will present. You are future, as we will say, in inverted commas, co-creators. But many of you are ready to let go of what we call the procreative cycle. Now, this is not to negate, dear ones, who will choose to still have their children, for they will simply, again, reclone their own egoic levels, and we understand that with love. And we know that in the state of resurrection, as this planetary consciousness moves, and she is moving, and that is why the fear will increase on this planet. For as she is shifting in consciousness, as she is opening her magnetics, You as souls are being given opportunities and choices even now. But I am aware also that there are souls on this planet whereby they have chosen what we will call mastery. Now, what does mastery mean? Before you incarnated, dear hearts, you were told very clearly, now you have an opportunity here to display something so magnificent. There is a natural resurrection going to take place here, which basically means that Earth is going to shift into a fourth consciousness, and some will call it the Golden Age, whereby humanity still continues its duality principle of what we call the male and the female, the Adam principle, as we will say, all to be honored as, again, experience for Creator, further consciousness for Creator, as part of its choice in its evolution here. But it will be a consciousness of harmony, whereby instead of what we call the 3D level, so powerful, which is based on power over or powerless. The 3D level, may I perhaps remind you, it's called sex, power, and money. And they are all interrelated. Now, I am very clear to say to you there is nothing wrong with what we call the energy called money. It has been the control and the fear that you have presented about it. There is nothing wrong with this. What has happened is your over-identification with it. I have never and will never, this is part of the banker of God. Money is known as God in action on another level, if only you but knew. The sexual side, we may say, is always about your need outside of yourself. Again, not to negate what we call sacred sex, which has been far and few on this planet. Because the sex has been placed, and your sexual energy, your sexual chakra has got very stuck. You have wanted to play with each other's sexual chakras all the time. You have moved out of even your rhythmic consciousness, and you are out of control on another level. We are not in any way abrogating or negating. If you are in a desire mechanism, then you must go through with it. And as I say to everybody when people talk to me about God, I say, well, dear heart, how do you feel? Do you still want to mate outside? Oh, yes, I do. I say, well, go bananas and enjoy yourself. And then maybe you will then desire God within yourself. Now, this is not a negation of God in this consciousness. Please understand what I am saying here. This will continue for hundreds and thousands of years and goodness knows how long. But there are souls here that are ready to move through. I have had many dear ones who have come to me and they have been bewildered. Because if it's, again, their choice that something within them no longer desires sex outside of themselves or desires that partnership in a sexual relationship. They have been challenged because of their own fears. And I'm going to say that very clearly. No one needs to possess another. What has taken place on earth has been, the emotions have been so strong, so powerful, that you've either given your power away or you have created power over another. And all that is happening now is Earth is shifting, she is moving into a balance, and that is the reason why many of you are working into healing consciousness, as we call it. You are trying to work out and healing your male and your female, as we will say. Many of you are so beautifully calling it holistic concepts, you're talking about all sorts of things, the new language, as we call it. All it is, it's again a choice. When I say a choice, Earth is shifting, so you have no choice but to rearrange who you are. Let's put it that way. You know, this is again, because your choice was not to fully awaken, and I'm talking about the collective consciousness of humanity, Earth then comes in and plays her part, and what we call cleans her decks, as we will say, in a vibrational sense. We're saying to you very, very clearly that only you can decide if you're ready to move into the co-creative stage. It is not about relying on anybody else anymore. Now, again, it only requires a few individuals walking on this planet for the whole of the diamond to be given the assistance. There was one solitary brother that walked on this planet nearly 2,000 years ago and surrendered to love, not to lack, understood and in compassion his own weaknesses. At no stage did he ever say he knew his own fears. He begged his higher levels to give him every assistance as he started to surrender. But he was in love. He hadn't fallen in love. He was in love. Contrary to what was said about him, he did not play around. He was a soul that was in a surrender, and that knew he was the divine incarnate in a physical manifestation, and it was part of his growth as a soul for greater Creator. At the same time, this was an experience for Creator to be given further evolution in physical evolution, as we say. When people say to me, I'm in surrender to God, the first question I ask them, would you now leave wherever you are? Are you ready? They look at me and they do a double take. Some go ashen white because they have realized they are talking about God. They have read all the books and they have been down to all the workshops and they have done it all. But whether they are ready to surrender and allow is another matter. It only requires a few souls on this planet. The mastery is when you can rise above the form. You have to be formless in order to be at one with the light. That does not say that you have to deny that you are a manifestation of a physical being. I am not saying you have to deny and you have to go into any what we call cells or monasteries anymore. We've done all of that. We've been down the sackcloth and ashes, and at no stage am I saying that you have got to deny the abundance. Quite the contrary. Our greatest fear is how we perceive ourselves in relationship to another. For we keep reflecting back to us our own fears. And that is what is taking place on this planet in this most beautiful country at this moment in time. You are being given a magnificent gift of your issues through another dear brother. Now, I am not here to make any comment about which issue. They are all interrelated. Love, and I am talking about true love, is beyond the physical form. It is in the physical form, but it is timeless and it is spaceless, as we will say. It is not blissed off the planet. It is a compassion. It is an understanding. It is a surrender, we may use that expression, for an allowing. That is why you came here, little ones. You came to awaken. You did not come to fall asleep again. And we are here to remind you that it has nothing to do with spirituality any longer. It has nothing to do with hoopla. It has nothing to do with glamour. It has nothing to do with what we call psychism. It has nothing to do with phenomena. It has to do with a humility of surrender. It has to do with that humility of saying, beloved of my heart, my soul, my light, my life, take command. It has to do with every particle of your being that is in yearning to the light. That every particle, every cell is yearning for the light. It is not yearning outside of yourself. It has no attachment or detachment. And yet, even as that yearning of love, that beingness, that God, 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 is coming through you and consuming you, completely consuming you, whether all you want to do is be selfless, yes, to accept that you are a personality and a tool, as we may say, for the instrument, as the instrument of all that is, where there is no attachment of how you are perceived anymore, or what you will eat, or what you will drink, or what you will wear, and yet not in denial of it either, to run away and disappear and hide. But keep saying to your beloved, use me, use me, use me, that I will manifest that which you have sent me to do. It is not an ideology, beloveds. It is not a philosophy. It is isness itself. It is, we may use the expression, one-dimensional. Why? Oneness. Out of the one came the two, and thus the three, and so it goes on. You are simply isness, beloved, choosing as a soul energy, as a soul, an ensouled being, to express Godness in whatever way, in whatever choice, in these many zones of consciousness that we, or Creator, in its desire to know. When I use the word desire, I am not talking about attachment. Now, as I have said to you, there may be only one person in this room, not to negate you, that will choose the mastery. And I am very clear to say to you very clearly, the mastery has nothing to do with your lower three chakras. But at the same time, unless you feel it, I cannot give it to you. I can only share with you who you really are, and know that when you as a soul are ready, you will choose and you will feel that love. You will feel that yearning for the light. I cannot give it to you. Why? For I know you are already the beloved. The awakening is the remembering of who you are. The awakening is the holistic concept that you are also beautifully talking about at this moment. You have, and we say this very clearly, and there is a tendency for you to create another religion, and you are calling it metaphysics. Now, I am very clear in my responsibility to the beloved. However you wish to hear it or be able to accommodate what I am saying here, you in your hearts will know where I am coming from. But we are saying to you that metaphysics, we have conveyed very clearly, is a halfway house. It was to help you let go of your addictive principles. Your addictive principles were based on separative consciousness even in your religious concepts. We are not in any way denying that this was your choice. You chose your separation. You engendered outside of yourself the further quantification of your separation by constantly being attached outside of yourself. Your emotions were so strong. You have written your many scripts, and they must be honored to have brought you here. Not here, in what I am saying to you, but in your own beingness and in your own self-realization taking place. Spirituality has nothing to do with spirit. Now, I don't know how you are going to feel, whether there's going to be a mass walkout. It is merely an adjective of spirit. Spirit is isness. It has no intellectual paradigm. Now you, as souls here, are being given an opportunity that has never been engendered for this experience ever in this quadrant of the universe. And we are going to give it in solar. You came in and you said, we want to be in for this moment of time to watch ourselves birth. To watch ourselves, what we call, go through a resurrection mode. To watch a planetary being and to be part of her through our magnetic consciousness, and watch our birth in electric consciousness as well, as spirit. Spirit in matter. We may put it another way. You said we want a marriage. And the marriage is the beloved. The lover and the beloved are one. And the marriage is your higher self with your lower self, as we will say. Now, when I use the word lower self, please don't be upset. I am not negating that the lower self is a principal part for this experience. The lower self, we may say, is based on your nature levels, your carnal levels, as we will call it. Your desire levels, your emotional levels, your very physical levels, which have become so entrenched in your thought forms about your bodies. Look what you are doing even now in your spirituality, your latest spirituality. And I am very tough here. Love is always very tough. Lovingly so. But there is a propensity now for many of you in your holistic concepts who have become body consciousness yet again. Now we may say that you as an awakened